Hey, welcome to the episode 5 or 6 or 80 billion, whatever number we're on, of NERDcast. My name is Lee.
We'll do the math later.
I'm here with the lovely Daniel Johnston.
Hello, Clarice.
That was creepy, but
it works.
This is more of a special episode of NERDcast. Basically, we're going to be just discussing the controversy that is the Mass Effect 3 ending and all sorts of things that go along with that. So yeah, that's basically what it's going to be. It's the special spoiler-filled Mass Effect 3 ending discussion. So if you haven't beat Mass Effect 3, watch it anyway, or watch this podcast.
Watch this podcast.
Listen to this podcast. Consume this podcast. Just
ingest this podcast into your bloodstream.
To the podcast that is legal. So yeah.
On the topic of special episodes,
okay.
Lee and I have decided that the majority of our episodes from now on are going to be kept down to 30 minutes in length, but because of the nature of this episode, this is probably going to go a lot longer than 30 minutes, but this will probably be the last lengthy episode we do.
Yeah. Basically, we're changing up the format. We're just going to keep it to a limited amount of questions that we're all just going to have a general discussion about. So, if we do that, then I think it'll be much more interesting. So, also, I think it'll be less strict with who we have on the podcast. It could be 2 of us. It could be all of us. It could be different people every time. But it'll be the same general cast. No, it'll never be that. But
just one random person just sitting there talking the whole time. It's like a lecture.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should get started. First of all, I think we're just going to talk about the plot holes. What did you beat the game, or what did you do in your ending, first of all? What was your choice?
Destroyed the Reapers. I destroyed them.
Oh, you did?
I destroyed them.
I have some questions about that, too, because, there's a whole way the thing's ending. So we're just going to talk about the endings in general first.
What did you choose, synthesis or control?
I united the, synthesis.
So, you did the synthesis ending, okay.
But that was after a long period of confusion where I was sitting.
What is going on?
I was sitting here well, it was funny because I didn't read any of the controversy of the ending, right? I didn't expose myself to anything Mass Effect related until I beat the game, right?
I accidentally did. I kind of regretted that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
But I made sure I didn't, so I was sitting there and I said, it was funny because I read all of the controversies and it was the exact thing I was thinking at that time. I was like, these endings are all the same.
They are the same.
I was like, yeah. The relays are destroyed, isolating everyone in the universe, and I pretty much kill everyone or reverse something that I worked really hard to do. So I don't really know what the difference is between what.
On the topic of the relays being destroyed and the Citadel being destroyed, that actually is a logical ending if you think about it. I will discuss it later, but it is actually logical.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but we'll get on that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, basically I saw the best route, in my opinion, of going down the middle and synthesizing everyone, because I said, you know what, that means everybody lives. And it was kind of funny because my main reasoning behind this was just well, I don't really want to cockblock Joker by killing 80, so...
come on, he has Rolex syndrome, he's sick.
Yeah.
Toss him a bone. Literally. Okay, well, I just have something here. This is a quote from Casey Hudson about the Mass Effect 3 ending, months before the game was released. This story arc is coming to an end with this game. That means the endings can be a lot more different. At this point, we're taking into account so many decisions that you've made as a player and reflecting a lot of that stuff. It's not even in any way like the traditional game endings, where you can say how many endings there are or whether you got ending A, B, or C. Now, for those of you who don't know the controversy, that was exactly what the ending was. Exactly what he said it wouldn't be. That is why people are so pissed off, because in a sense they were lied to, and I totally agree with that. Because you had 3 choices. You had choice A, control the Reapers. Choice B, do what Lee did and synthesize human and synthetics. Or do what I did, which is option C, and blow them all to shit.
Well, I think there's a lot more problems behind that. It was a limited amount of endings, But it's funny because if you check on the site, they'll be like, "Oh, there was more than the 3 endings." It was like
it was just so many minimal things though, like whether or not you kill the elusive man, whether or not he kills himself, whether or not the elusive man kills Anderson, or whether or not Anderson survives that part and dies later. Spoiler.
Well, this is we don't have to say spoilers. We already spoiled.
That's true.
This
is a spoiler podcast. Yeah.
But I saw I watched all of the endings, and it was like if the elusive man kills Anderson, he also shoots you, unless you do like
a renegade option.
Yeah, before he kills Anderson. So like, if Anderson dies, Shepard dies too, and you have to do the mission over again, right?
Yeah, and what also sucks about that is like, what if you've been playing Paragon the entire game? You've not done a single renegade option, and yet in this time you have to. That also confused me a lot as well.
I didn't do it, and he didn't end up dying.
I only did a few renegade options in that entire game. One of them was when I killed Kai Lang, because that guy pissed me the fuck off.
Well, I never did a renegade option the entire time on purpose. Although, yeah, there was pretty much every time the renegade option appeared, I would have done it. Whereas in Mass Effect 2, when the renegade popped up, I was like, yeah, this is totally unnecessary and overreacting. I wouldn't do that. Whereas this time I was like, hell yeah, I would kill Kai Lang. Why wouldn't I? He's a bastard.
He killed Thane. That son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Did he kill Miranda in your game?
No.
Miranda survived?
Yes.
Oh, she died in my game, so... Yeah, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? I boned her in the second game, and Thane was a badass on my team. So you know what? I'm going to kill you, and I'm not going to regret any of it.
And it was... Because I talked to somebody else in my class about the ending, right? And he said that he did the Renegade too, where you just killed it and you say, this is for Thane, right? And then you kill him. I didn't do the Renegade, and then I was like, what's gonna happen? Shepard's gonna die, right? And so then, you see it shows like his eye if you don't do the Renegade, and then he dodges it and the computer gets stabbed, and then like Shepard just like elbows him and turns around, and then he says, this one's for Thane, and does the exact same thing and stabs him with the Omni tool, right?
It's much more badass when you just use the Renegade option.
Yeah. Or there should have been an option of use common sense and have someone look at the guy that you don't know if he's dead.
We're gonna find when we discuss the ending that Mass Effect avoids common sense a lot.
Well, and it was funny because even before I saw Kai Lang get up, I was like, I had Edie and Garrus with me at that point, so I was like, no one's gonna watch my back. He's like, there's a very, very good chance that he's not dead, or the elusive man's there and he's gonna kill me, or something's gonna happen. We're in the enemy base and you just let all your guards down. Okay, whatever.
I'm just gonna go back for a smoke, Shepard.
Yeah. A space smoke. But, so yeah, basically, I think I want to get into some of the plot holes now. I'm just probably gonna run down, well, no, we'll go through them one at a time and we'll talk about each one, I have a thread right now open on BioWare's site, basically talking about. So this isn't a complete list of plot holes, but this is most of the ones that I noticed right off the bat too. And,
these are some of the most apparent ones that you can, if you don't see, you're blind.
The biggest one I first noticed was, where was it? I have to find it on this list here.
Was it Joker?
Well, that too. Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. It's not on this list, actually. But why was Joker leaving the battle?
Okay, this is one I can actually shoot down, and this is one that I actually, when I talked about earlier before we started recording, about where I could talk about Electronic Arts. This game was rushed. This game was rushed, and it is so apparent if you played the 360 version. I don't know if it happened in the PS3 version, but I could not import my Shepard from the first and second game.
Really?
I could not import, I could import the decisions I made, I could import all of his stats and everything like that, but his face was different. I had to reconstruct his entire face. So the fact that they didn't fix that means that they didn't finish that game. And also, I found an audio clip on YouTube where it's a cut content of a Joker, and he talks about this one's for Cortez, and it's like he's joining the battle on Earth. So there was obviously content where he came back to Earth and fought with them. So that one might be he actually picked up the crew. Shepard said, you know what, you guys go. I'm doing this on my own.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about why, that's a different plot hole together. I'm talking about Joker was fleeing the battle like that, just the one shot of like the relay exploding and him flying away. Why was he leaving? Why is he abandoning the battle?
That's what I'm getting at. Like, Joker may have come back and Shepard told him, like, he might have said, grab everyone and go, get out of here. This is going to get ugly.
Oh, okay.
That's probably what happened. Granted, that alone is also a really, really, really stupid thing to do. The writers should be ashamed of themselves for writing that, because you know what? Joker's an experienced pilot. He's a military man, and so is Shepard. And Shepard talks the entire game about sacrifice, and you have to sacrifice yourself for you have to like give everything. Like you either fight or you die, and yet he's telling Joker to run away. That's what I'm getting at. So that's another thing we're going to talk about later. In the last 15 minutes of the game, Shepard is not Shepard.
And Shepard is not Shepard. What was that you said, Danny? I think that segues nicely into the indoctrination theory.
Wow, nice segue. Red hot Philly papers, red hot chili peppers.
Okay, now we're getting into some esoteric references here. But
whose line is it anyway, people? There you go.
Along the lines of Joker leaving the battle, even if that was true and things were written out, I agree with you that that's totally not what would happen. If I was Joker, I would be like, well, let's weigh the options here. Either I stay and I die, or I stay. So let's say that all goes well and we, somehow I don't die from the battle, but I get captured and made into a husk because we're gonna die, right? Yeah. So, basically you're choosing death, or death and I stay, or death because I left, right? You're gonna die either way. So
it's a losing battle. All I can say is that I also think right now there are huge problems going on at BioWare, because the main writer of the series, Drew Karpyshyn, I think his name is, he left a couple weeks before the game was released. And from what I gathered, I was creeping his Twitter account because that's what social networking has allowed us to do. And he basically said that I don't think the ending that Mass Effect 3 had was the ending that he wrote. I don't think someone asked him what his version of the ending would have been, and he said he was not allowed to disclose that.
Even after the game was released?
Yeah, this was after the game was released. I could be wrong on this. You would have to check this later. But I have a feeling with Drew Karpyshyn leaving, they didn't have that high experienced sci-fi writer that they had. And you know what? You could think that the indoctrination theory is true. More on that later. But I just think they totally blew it. I honestly think they just blew it completely.
Well, remember there was the data leak, where somebody got a hold of the multiplayer
script.
And the script, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that has something to do with this ending? Do you think?
Well, they did say, based on fan feedback, they would change some parts of the game. But you would think if they did that, fans would have hated this ending, and they would have changed this ending.
Well, yeah, I never looked into what these leaks were. Because
I didn't either, yeah.
I didn't want to know the ending, right? Because maybe it could be just been they say, oh yeah, we're going to change the ending. And then so people would just be like, oh, well, that's a fake ending, right? And nobody looks into it, or people ignore it. And then it is the same ending, right? Just because they already wrote the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So I never looked into it just because it could be true and it could be the one that they actually used. So I'd have to read what that leak was.
I've tried to find it. It's actually quite hard to find.
Yeah. So you'd have to find out what the leak was and read to see if there was another ending, and maybe they rewrote it in a short amount of time. So we got this patch job of an ending, right?
Yeah, I personally just think BioWare just totally blew it. And back on what you we're gonna just go into the indoctrination thing right now. We're gonna go back later, but when you said about you brought up before we started recording about whether or not they did this intentionally to add more for cut content and all that, or adding a different ending, I just don't think that's true. Seriously, they just blew this horribly, and they are if they take the indoctrination theory, they're taking the easy way out, because and I personally wouldn't do that, because you're basically admitting the fans are better writers than you, because the indoctrination theory is freaking awesome.
It is, but I still want to address some of the plot holes before I get into the indoctrination thing.
Yeah, because
we have to stop referencing it in order to.
Hey, it's called foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. What was another one? Oh yes, there was the whole thing about Anderson and getting, okay, that's part of the indoctrination theory. So, never mind. I don't want to address that. Okay, at the end, there's, the ending shot of, like, where, what I did with Synthesis, so I got the ending shot of the ship landing and everyone gets off and everyone's happy, right?
Yeah.
So, the plot hole was, if your crew that you had, and it wasn't the case for me because I didn't take my love interest on with the final mission, right? So it'll always show Joker, Edie, the love interest that you chose, and someone else, I believe. It'll always show those people. So if you picked your love interest to go for the final battle, as they were rushing down to the beam, and then you're just like, oh, everyone's dead. So that means that everyone's dead. Your crew died going to the beam, right? Yeah. Because the story never says otherwise, right? So that's the only information you get. So we have to assume that they're dead. So then they show up on the ship. First of all, how were they picked up? And how did they survive the blast if they were the only ones that, right?
I don't think anyone can explain how that's happened. Because, like I said, that was either part of that cut content with a Joker coming back, or the writers at BioWare just completely screwed that up. There are so many things in here, like, you can either attribute to them cutting an explanation from the game, or just them royally screwing it up. And I just think they royally screwed that part up if that cut content was not actually part of the game.
Well, yeah, like, I totally agree with, if you're gonna cut sometimes you have to cut content because...
But if they cut that Joker content, that could explain so many things.
Yeah.
Like, why cut something that could have saved so much, trouble?
You'd think they would cut some of these needless side missions, just like, oh, hey, Shepard, you know the world's ending, but it'd be awesome if you went and got me this bottle of wine off of this godforsaken planet here.
Or crazy Conrad Werner jumping in front of you trying to, stop a bullet.
I always did find that funny, where it's just like, oh, I know the world's ending, but can you get my laundry off of,
Hey, Shepard, want to come play some cards, instead of, trying to, save the world? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You gonna finish writing that novel?
So what were some other plot holes? I'm reading through here. It also says, the first one here was, what was the need for Sovereign? Starchild made that entire storyline endgame unnecessary. And I guess that also alludes to Harbinger, too. Like, if there was a being above this, and it's funny because Mass Effect 2 kind of addressed Harbinger as, the be-all, end-all of Reapers, right?
Okay, that Starchild, do not get me started on that Starchild, okay? Because what that Starchild did was basically destroy so much that came from Mass Effect 1. Did you ever watch any videos from Mass Effect 1?
Some of it, yeah. Just to be clear to the audience, I got it for PS3, so I had to play Mass Effect 2 and pretty much learn everything from my own research, so I do know quite a bit about the Mass Effect 1, even though I haven't played it, but...
Yeah, so there's a conversation in Mass Effect 1 that most of you would know, and including Lee, because I showed him the video. You talk to Sovereign directly, and you talk to a Prothean VI called Vigil, and what Sovereign says is that their mission is beyond your comprehension. Judging by what the Starchild said, I totally understand what he's saying. It's not beyond my comprehension. That is the easiest thing to understand. I was expecting something so mind blowing, but that's nothing. It's nothing at all. And also the Reaper Sovereign talks about how they are the end of everything. Not once do they ever hint that there's someone above them. Not once. And yet there's this AI and there's this Starchild that rules them and decides to destroy all organic beings. I'm sorry for swearing, but this whole thing is just a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It's fucking with my head here, just trying to talk about it.
Well, and
I think BioWare succeeded in the fact that we're still talking about the ending almost a month later.
Well, it's different. Getting people to talk about the ending, I'm talking about the ending because of the plot holes. You can't deny that there's plot holes.
Oh my god, there's so many.
Regardless of what the quality...
What was your joke that you said on Twitter a couple weeks ago?
There's plot holes big enough to drive the, what was it?
The Destiny Ascension.
Destiny Ascension through.
It's so true, though. Oh god, that's so true.
But so yeah, so if you're like including Harbinger into the whole thing, and there was also like there wasn't really what was like at the end of Mass Effect 2. Like I never really did the Collectors play a big part in Mass Effect 2? Yeah, they did, right?
Yeah.
Were they in Mass Effect 1?
The Collectors?
Yeah.
No.
They weren't.
No, you did not understand the Collectors at all. You did not see them at all. They were not mentioned. They were not. Yeah.
So like the one time when you were talking to Harbinger near the end of Mass Effect 2, there was like he was an indoctrinated like collector on board, right? Like they kept showing him, if I recall correctly. So, and like anyone who was indoctrinated, like any of the collectors, like what were they called when they became like indoctrinated and you could hear like Harbinger and you'd be like,
they were actually called just Harbinger. I think it's more the fact that in what happened in Mass Effect 2 is that those collectors used to be Protheans, and they were reverse engineered and they were genetically modified by the Reapers. So the Reapers had total control over the collectors completely. But they could also assume direct control of one individually using the Reaper's powers. That's why when you play Mass Effect 2 on Insanity, those Harbinger collectors are just fucking murderous. I was killed at least 100 times by those guys, and it pissed me off so much.
So, but then it made such a big deal about like so then we can assume that collector that was Harbinger was using was also a Prothean, right?
Pardon me?
That collector that Harbinger was using was also a Prothean then, right?
Yes, the
a Prothean husk, right?
Yeah, actually no, I don't think they were husks. I think actually that makes more sense.
Because so then what was the deal with that? Like why did he look so much different than all the other husks? They never really even got into that side of the thing, right? Of like the whole story.
I don't know, I think it might have been just like a hierarchy thing to like differentiate between the collector and like the collector general and all that. It might have been something like that. That's something like you shouldn't look really too deep into. Because I don't even think BioWare thought that far along.
I get that, but like, I'm just wondering why Harbinger didn't play a bigger part in this. Like, okay, yeah, you got hit by Harbinger's beam.
Okay, yeah, that also pissed me off. See, because I was so stoked at the end of Mass Effect 2 when it showed Harbinger and all those Reapers coming towards Earth, and you only see Harbinger once, and you hear him talk only in dream segments when you're running after that little kid.
Yeah.
I think this also plays into the fact that, again, I'm going to bring up Electronic Arts here. They wanted to make this as accessible to new players as possible. That is the stupidest thing you could ever do, especially in a game like this, where there's a huge story component.
Yeah.
Like, if story is such a big deal, and if you want to make the third game accessible to new players, you have to make sacrifices. And they clearly made sacrifices by forgetting a lot of the stuff they did in the first and second game.
It kind of doesn't make sense to me that you would be like, oh, I want to get as many people on board as possible to get this third game, when, okay, so we're going to screw up the story then, let's just say this is the board meeting that they're thinking of, alright? And,
yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't it make more sense, instead of going, okay, we're going to make it Mass Effect 3 as accessible as possible to newer players, right? So we're going to kind of tone down some of the older storylines and make it an independent, quote-unquote independent storyline in the third one.
Like what they did with Mass Effect 2, and they had that Mass Effect Genesis comic where they went through the story of Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, well...
Did that help you at all understand the story when you first played it?
It did, but what it didn't help me with was just kind of like the relationships between the different species or like different races kind of thing.
Yeah,
it
like,
didn't really
have that.
Like, so you didn't get anything about, like, the whole genophage thing? Because I went through a long time where I was like, I don't even know what the genophage means, right?
Yeah, that's something you really have to play Mass Effect 1 to understand.
Yeah.
See, that's why if you play Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 3, the ending doesn't piss you off as much, which kind of is like an oxymoron. Like, you've played it so much, so it should piss you off the most. But there are so many things in Mass Effect 1. Like you know how like in like one of the major complaints is that your choices don't matter at all at the end of the game.
Yeah, which they don't.
No, they don't. But think of it like this: I actually read a comment on, I think it was like Destructoid, and this actually made perfect sense. Consider the entire third game an ending in itself, because like I wasn't more concerned with like what happened with the Reapers. Yeah, I wanted to know what happened there, but I wanted to know what happened between the Quarian and the Geth. I wanted to know what happened with the Genophage. I wanted to know what happened with the Turians, with the Asari, and I got that. Like, well, in my story, the Geth were destroyed. I didn't make peace between them. I cured
destroyed the Geth?
I
was heartless bastard.
I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry.
Okay,
I wanted to make peace between them, but it wouldn't work. Like those two options were like blocked out, like the Paragon and Renegade option. To like, I must have done something wrong, but I was just like, shit, no, I gotta make a choice.
After Legion took you through everything that the Geth went through, that the Geth could have destroyed the Quarians but didn't, you still destroyed the Geth.
Look, man, Legion would not have been on my squad, but Tally would have, and I wanted at least Tally on my squad.
It was funny because at first when I was like, man, we have a Geth on our squad, I was like, what the hell is this? He's gonna destroy everything and like be like terrible. And then by the end I was like, you didn't get to see the ending then with Legion when he sacrificed himself. I actually did get to see that. Cause I actually, first sided with the Geth. I first sided with the Geth and then saw Legion sacrifice himself, and I saw the migrant fleet just get blown to shit, and then Tally commit suicide. But what?
Then, yeah, Tally commit suicide if you side with the Geth.
Really?
Yeah, she does. But then I realized I wanted Tally on my squad, so I kind of went back on my save and I redid that. When I play it on Insanity, I'm going to try so hard to make peace between those two, because honestly, Legion is a badass, and he's like the best character in the entire series.
Well, other than Garrus. But
okay, Garrus is we can do a whole podcast on that, man.
But just like I didn't think I would have any feeling for Legion, and then when he did the whole thing where he showed you his history and stuff like that, and just the whole thing that he went through, I was like, man, he's such a deeper character. And then even at the end when after you went through and cleared things out, he started referring to himself as I and stuff like that.
Really, this is one of those moments in the game where I actually felt horrible for what I did. I actually felt terrible. Because especially if you side with the Quarians, after because if you side with the Quarians, Legion tries to kill you.
Really?
Yeah, he does, because he said, I'm not going to let you decide the fate of my people. So he starts choking Shepard, and then Tally comes up from behind him and strikes him in the back and knocks him out. And he's so severely damaged that he's shutting down. And then he says something, I forget what it was, but it's like an I'm sorry kind of a deal, and I was just like, oh God, no, don't, Legion, stop, no.
So that was your ending, or
that's what happened. Like that's how I resolved the Quarian and Geth thing, because I think the one thing I forgot to rescue the Admiral on the planet. I forgot to do that, and I think that was the main thing why I couldn't make peace between them, because I looked online and I did everything right. Except that. So I'd assume that would be the reason why. But yeah, back to what I was saying, consider Mass Effect 3, the whole game, as an ending to every story arc from the first two games. Because your choices in the first two games mattered a whole lot in the game itself, up until the last 10 minutes, obviously. But I think what BioWare was trying to do, and I don't agree with it, was they wanted a definitive ending for everyone. Because I understand they're only humans, and they kind of drove themselves into a corner with their own ambition, because they would have to make so many endings for everyone. And that would just take up way too much time. That would just take up way too many resources. But I understand if they can't go that far, but they went the wrong way in making an ending that's 95% the same and then just branching it out. If you're going to make an ending like ABC, like what Casey Hudson said they wouldn't do, but they did, they did it wrong. Because they left too many plot holes, like we've been discussing. They completely went back on so much of the lore of the story. They went back on the character of Shepard. Because I'm sorry, Shepard is either really, really, really charming, that he can charm you in all your stuff, or he's really, really, really intimidating. And yet, in the last 10 minutes, he was just like okay, what do I do now?
It was seemingly like he was a pawn to someone else.
Stop foreshadowing, but yeah, so I didn't mind the ending except for the plot holes. The ending itself was fine. because also if you think about it, in Mass Effect 1, you learn that the Reapers created the Citadel. The Reapers created the mass relays. So if you think about it, you destroy the Reapers, you should not have the mass relays and the Citadel, because you're getting rid of, like, because in the first one they talk about how your, like, society and civilizations develop on the paths that the Reapers desire. So if you destroy the Reapers, you're no longer bound to their ways, and the mass relays were part of their ways. So you destroy the Reapers, you destroy them. However, if you control the Reapers, that was what pissed me off. Because if you control the Reapers, you also destroy the mass relay and you destroy the Citadels, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, every ending destroys the relays and destroys the Citadel.
Yeah, like, they should not have destroyed the relays if you control the Reapers, because the Reapers are still there. Like, why destroy them if they're still there? Same thing with synthesis. Like, you're merging synthetic and organic life. That actually should have been the best ending, where, like, everyone's all happy and go. And
that's why I chose it, right? Because I was like, man, everybody should be happy, hold hands, la la la, right?
And also, they made it sound like it's the best ending, because that's the ending. Like, if you go from beginning to end of the game, and you don't get your effective military strength high enough, you don't get that ending. You have to have an effective military strength of 5,000 in order to have one.
Yeah, mine was full, but I was also at, like, well, when you play the multiplayer, like,
I had to grind in the multiplayer to get it, because I missed a few things, so I was below the 5,000, so I played the multiplayer to get my galactic readiness to, like, 98%.
I did literally everything you could do. Like, literally everything.
There were a few things I forgot. Like, the Eden Prime colonist things, I forgot to do that. The Admiral, the Quarian Admiral rescue, I forgot to do that. Yeah, there were a few things I forgot. But yeah, so, like, what I was saying, like, the ending itself, like, the concept of the ending is fine. I actually like it. But BioWare dropped the ball when it comes to plot holes, when it comes to a total resolution, when it comes to closure and all that, because they left so many questions unanswered. They left so many things wide open to discussion, which we're obviously doing. But that's not how you're supposed to end something, unless you're, going to be releasing something more, which, again, we are foreshadowing.
Yeah, I get that, what you're saying about the whole end being, like, the whole game being the ending. And in that aspect, like, I gotta say, excluding, up until the last battle where you come back to Earth, before that, Mass Effect 3 is definitely the best game I've ever played. Like,
yep,
by far,
definitely 100% on
my
that.
number one on the list, right?
Yeah, like that. Aren't you happy I got you into that game?
Yes. But, well, it was funny because...
welcome. Thank you for that. Thank you for your acknowledgement.
My entire time of, like, I was like, I own a PlayStation and I have all these PlayStation exclusive games that I play and I really like it. But if I were to get an Xbox, the only reason I would get it would be because I could play Gears of War, and I think at that time BioShock, because it was exclusive. That was like BioShock and Mass Effect. That would be the only 3 games that I would get that system for. And I was like, 3 games are not enough to justify my purchase of a $400 console at the time. So
Mass Effect is enough to justify that. I can tell you right now.
In hindsight, yes.
Yes. Take it from me, I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I love Star Wars.
So am I.
I love Star Trek. I know you are. But, like, I love everything sci-fi, and so that's one of the appealing things about Mass Effect. I also love BioWare's games. I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and that, up until Mass Effect, was my favorite game ever. Because Knights of the Old Republic is the best Star Wars game you will ever play. And that game proved BioWare can write a damn story. Because there was a plot twist in Knights of the Old Republic that made me just go, what the fuck? It was pretty big. So, like, I can honestly say, I don't consider Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3, any of them, like, my favorite games. I consider the whole damn series my favorite. Because those games were just, those are the best games ever. And to see the way they handled the ending to Mass Effect 3, it kind of just makes me go, ugh.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the aftertaste, right? It's what you're left with that's like, well, that wasn't very good, right? Or, well, that wasn't really the way I expected.
It's like drinking a combination of milk, mustard, and orange juice, man.
It's like, the game is like Thin Mints. They are delicious and have a large palette of flavor at the beginning, and it goes with milk very good, but at the end, you're left with all these chocolate chunks in your teeth, and, yeah.
Oh, I hear you. But yeah, like, Mass Effect 3 was so, like, you could tell they put so much effort into this game, and it showed, and it was just polished. Like the combat was fun. The story up until the last 10 minutes, like we were talking about, it was fantastic. But just to see them like drop the ball, if they did that unintentionally and they actually dropped the ball like that, that pisses me off and it upsets me so much. But foreshadowing, we're going to talk about later. If they did this intentionally, then you have to just think these guys have to have the biggest balls in the world, because if they did this, that takes a lot of balls to do that.
Yeah. Another plot hole was I didn't really understand what the Star Child was saying in regards to, like, I understand what he was saying, but I mean, like, the method of going about what their goal was didn't seem...
It seemed kind of counterintuitive.
It immediately I thought of, like, the exhibit meme, where it's just like, yo dog, I heard you like, it's like, I heard you like organics, so I made some synthetics to kill organics to make sure synthetics don't take over your organics. And I was like, that just doesn't make sense. Oh.
Yeah, see, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like,
we have to
synthetics are...
Organics make synthetics, so we don't want that to happen, because synthetics will always take over organics in our hypothetical situation that might not be true, right?
Yeah, in the whole concept of the game, the Reapers are synthetics, partly organic, obviously,
well,
and they're taking
synthetics that have had to have been made by, well, like, I guess if you go back down in the stream, you're gonna get into the whole, okay, was it like this whole God debate kind of thing, right? About how did the universe start, which we don't know how ours started, so how would we know or how this fake one?
Yeah.
So, I guess if you go back far enough, you're kind of, spinning your tires, so to speak. So
that's another thing. When the Star Child was talking, I was just like sitting there, and I was watching it, and I was like, Shepard, say something, because he keeps talking about how like synthetics and organics can never coexist peacefully, and then I was just thinking, well, if I did everything right, the Geth and the Quarians are living happily ever after on Rannoch.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Howard's like
Shepard just stood there and took everything this guy said and like, okay, what do I do? No, Shepard should be sitting there going, no. You sit down, you go in the corner, and you go to your room.
You sit down, shut up, and listen.
Oh, God. But yeah, so like he should have said, like, you know what? The Geth were destroying everyone. And guess what? We solved that. And now they're living peacefully with organics. Oh, what did I just say? Yeah, organics, bitch. What?
But, so you're thinking that the reason why Shepard didn't argue, maybe because he was almost seemingly a third person, like a passenger.
Hey, you're taking this. You're having so much fun with this.
Okay, let's move on to the indoctrination theory. Okay, the indoctrination theory, if you're totally living under a comfortable rock, was basically a fan-proposed theory. A fan-proposed theory that the entire mission upon landing on Earth it was after getting hit with Harbinger's beam, was a hallucination, which led up to, or which was all in Shepard's mind, of his mind kind of battling the indoctrination.
And did you watch the Perfect Destroy ending?
Yes.
That also factors into this.
If you are full renegade, and you choose to destroy the Reapers, so you've maxed out your renegade, which is almost impossible, I might add to you.
You max out, is it you max out your renegade or paragon, or you max out your effective military strength?
Is it? So there's more than that? I thought it was if you...
I was full Paragon, and I maxed out my effective military strength, and I got the best destroy ending.
So you destroyed it, and then you saw at the end Shepard wake up, right?
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
I was under the impression that it was you needed full Renegade, but okay,
No.
Apparently if you just choose the Renegade ending under certain, easy circumstances, Shepard wakes up at the end. So the theory is that there were certain things along the path that were testing of the indoctrination theory, right?
Basically, okay. If you put it this way, that Star Child is actually Harbinger, and he's Harbinger, or he's all the Reapers, and he's talking to Shepard all at once. And one thing that really confused me as well is when he's giving you the options to destroy and control. Control is blue, and blue is Paragon, and the person to represent Paragon was the Elusive Man, who is not a good guy. I am sorry.
Well, that was okay, well, I'll talk about what the tests were, because I watched, it's kind of funny, because I watched I watched a video on YouTube that I'm an expert in this field here, but no.
No, I watched that video. I studied all this crap. I did more of this stuff than I did my actual schoolwork, and it showed on my last biology test.
So, but yeah, basically, what I've gathered so far was that there were certain things that were a test of what, so, I think the first one was the Elusive Man and the argument between the Elusive Man and the Admiral, right?
Anderson, yeah.
Anderson, yeah. Oh no, the Admiral's the other guy, right? Or is it Admiral Anderson?
Anderson is an admiral.
Yeah.
As well.
What was the other guy's name? Hackett.
Hackett. Yeah, Hackett.
So I just want, that's totally different point. I just wanted to know the guy's name. But
yeah.
So the argument between the Elusive Man and Anderson was basically just like Anderson represented your unindoctrinated side, and
he's trying to get you to break free.
Yes, and which you kind of did, and so then basically they were saying that if you kind of agreed with the Elusive Man or did certain things with that, it was like weakening your mind to allow you into indoctrination, because everything up until there's actually been mentioned in the series that I think it was in Mass Effect 2 they actually said this, that the Reapers can't directly indoctrinate anyone who does not want to be indoctrinated. You have to allow them or get tricked into being indoctrinated, right? So basically what that was doing was, if you're agreeing with the Elusive Man or doing or not, like just totally dismissing what the Elusive Man's saying, then you can be tricked into being allowed to being indoctrinated, right?
Yeah.
So there were certain things along the line that were also tricks, and it was also going along to the colors of the final decision.
Yeah, that was really, like, that had to have been at least somewhat intentional. There was something, because BioWare could not just forget the colors of Paragon and Renegade at the end of the game.
Well, because they're saying that, what did the Elusive, like, they said that the Paragon ending is to control the Reapers, right?
Yeah, and, like, if you control the Reapers survive. Well, and that's what the Reapers want.
Okay, the entire goal up until that point, Shepard's goal, kill the Reapers.
Destroy them.
Destroy them. The Elusive Man's goal was to control the Reapers. So by alternating the colors of what has been Paragon and Renegade up until that point, so now the obvious ending that's good is the evil ending.
It's like he's being controlled to think differently than what he's been doing for the entire series. So, I understand that.
So they're
I'm
saying
not denying that this indoctrination theory is, like, incredibly plausible. I just don't think BioWare has the balls to, like, totally do this. I don't think they have the balls to do this. Because that is the biggest swindle in gaming history.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that in our next segment again, because we're going to move on to, like, what the ending, kind of what it should have been, or where does BioWare go from here kind of thing. That's what we'll discuss after this. But, so yeah, that would be kind of a trick. And they're also saying that if you choose to be, like, control the Reapers, you would be indoctrinated like the Elusive Man obviously was, right?
Yeah.
So allowing that would be indoctrination. So also choosing synthesis would be indoctrination, right?
Yes.
The only way you could come out not indoctrinated would be
to destroy
the Reapers, right?
Which is why at the end Shepard wakes up, because he's been released of the indoctrination because he's conquered it. Yes. And there's one thing you have to, like, if you go by the indoctrination theory, you also have to think, like, Shepard has been, like, you can see throughout the entire game, Shepard is being indoctrinated throughout the entire game. Because I remember, like, that child at the beginning, no one sees him.
Yes,
the only person who ever sees him is Shepard. And another thing, when you first meet the child in the, or when the second time you see the child, when he's in the ventilation system and Shepard's talking to him, Anderson does not once go up to Shepard and ask him who the hell is he talking to. Anderson has no idea. And this also brings up another point. When when Anderson calls for Shepard, you hear a Reaper screaming in the background, or you hear a Reaper growl in the background. Apparently, I never read any of the novels. I'm actually planning on doing that. But in one of the novels, it talks about when you're being indoctrinated, when you snap out of it, you hear a really weird sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read this somewhere. I don't know where, but, like, that just makes it a little bit more sense as to how he's being indoctrinated. And also those dreams that he was having, you hear Harbinger talk to him in those dreams.
Yes, you do.
That is another big thing. Like, it's like Harbinger is, like, in his mind, and he's telling him, like, Don't resist us, Shepard. No, I'm sounding like actually Rex.
That was actually a pretty good impression of Rex, I gotta say.
I'm sorry with that. There's your comedy for the day.
But what was I gonna say? Also, about that dream, you're going through like a forest kind of thing, right? And the trees are kind of like burnt out sort of thing, right? When you're running down the ramp before you get hit by Harbinger's beam,
yes, I noticed.
There's like nothing there, right? When you wake up, there's those trees that weren't there before, and if you turn around, it's the same like background like the dream was.
Okay, you know what, Lee? I'm sorry, but now I'm actually starting to become a believer just from what we're talking about.
Well, I was like, there's too many coincidences with this indoctrination theory. So either what you've said earlier, the fans can write a better story than the BioWare can.
Yeah.
But
this is starting to look more plausible. Like I said, like one thing I don't like, because I don't doubt BioWare can actually do this. Because okay, if you played Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox, you find out about 2/3 of the way through the game that you've been playing the entire game as the bad guy. It is messed up. Because Darth Malak is the antagonist in the game, and his former master was Darth Revan. And you find out like three-quarters of the way through the game that your character is actually Darth Revan. When I first saw that, I was like, "What? Oh my god, that's awesome!" So I don't doubt BioWare can do really huge plot twists like this, and this would be a really, really, really big plot twist. This would be huge.
So another thing was kind of supporting the indoctrination theory was a little thing. What was it? What are you listening to in the background?
Oh, I turned it off because that was the hockey game.
I was like, can you turn it down a bit? Because
I actually just muted it. Sorry.
Okay. There was when you never actually you got the radio signal you got. I'd have to play it again because I couldn't find a video on it other than watching like the entire ending, and I'm not going to do that because I didn't want to.
Are you talking about the radio from Admiral Hackett?
Yeah.
Okay, that actually makes sense, because he radios Shepard after the Citadel arms open, so Hackett obviously saw the Citadel arms open, so he must assume Shepard did it.
Okay, I get that. But then, I was trying to remember if Shepard actually did ever radio to say, I'm on the Citadel, other than to Anderson.
No, he didn't, no.
And
he woke up after that blast, went to the beam, and here is another thing. Okay, so he talks like when you go up from that beam to the Citadel. I think I'm starting like a boss here. But when you go up from the beam to the Citadel, Anderson's already there. You don't see him go to the beam.
He said
he came in after you.
Yeah.
Yet he obviously had to have been there before you.
And there was only one path there.
Like I know he mentioned something about how the walls were shifting and all that, but judging by the layout of the area that you were in, it didn't look like that could shift at all. Because also in that little like circular room where that control panel is, there is no other way he could have got there except that one path. No other way.
And I also read, I don't think it was in that video, but there was another thing saying like the endings of the last two games. The areas that you were in those two parts were also included in that last part. Like, what was the ending? I can't remember where the ending of. Oh yeah, on the collector base, right?
The collector base, yeah.
There were aspects of the collector base in the Citadel. Like.
Also, you played Lair of the Shadow Broker, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know when you open up that door when you just get into the Citadel and you see those like moving pillars and all that electricity and all that?
Yeah.
Okay, on the layer of the Shadow Broker's ship, it looks exactly like the inside of the layer of the Shadow Broker's ship.
There were aspects of, so that's another part of the indoctrination theory, that the ship was made up of things that Shepard has experienced.
Yeah.
That the ship was made at the beginning of time. The Citadel was made hundreds of millions of years before Shepard even existed.
You know what, Lee? I'm sorry. When we started this podcast, I actually wanted like a debate, like somewhat disproving this indoctrination theory. But fuck it. No, I totally can't. This is actually making more sense the more we talk about it.
So another thing is people were talking about the getting away from the whole plot holes and indoctrination theory and everything like that. People were saying that proposing this theory or saying that it needs a new ending is entitlement. Now,
It's not entitlement. No,
I have seen some things where people were just, it's totally entitlement, but...
Oh, yeah, but okay, the general problem people had is that BioWare lied to them. BioWare talked the entire, like, from when they first announced the first game, how it's going to be a trilogy, your actions will have consequences on the ending, blah, 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 blah. They've been promising stuff since the first game, and they didn't deliver. And, you know, like, if you go to a restaurant and you order, like, a steak, and you order it, say, medium rare, and you get it completely raw, you were promised something, and you didn't get it. So that is not entitlement. People have a right to be upset about this ending. Some of the stuff they've been complaining about, like, some of the actions, like the tanking of the Metacritic score, like just saying straight up change your ending. No, I don't think they should change the ending, because frankly, that would set a precedent in the game industry that I really don't want to see, where if you don't like, I didn't like the ending to, I didn't like the ending to Final Fantasy X. I hated the ending to that game because the main character disappeared. He was an awesome character, but he was gone. I didn't like the ending. I didn't ask them to change it. Granted, they did when they released Final Fantasy X too. But you shouldn't ask someone to change the ending, because in all fairness, it is BioWare's like story. Like, it's not like, it is a choose your own adventure like story, but you can only choose the thing that BioWare has programmed into the game. So it is technically BioWare's story, and they have every right to end this the way they want, and people have no right to tell them, to demand them to change it. Like, exactly. BioWare can change it on their own. Like, if they feel like they have like done a disservice to the fans, which I feel they've actually done, because Ray Muzica came up and he put that blog on BioWare, on the BioWare website, and he said like he's really surprised by all this like reaction, and they're going to do game content initiatives to provide more closure and all that. So if they felt they've done a disservice to fans and they feel that changing their ending would get them like a good rep and all that, by all means do that. But the fans had no right to demand a change to that ending, because it is not their ending. It is not their fiction. It's BioWare's story. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and frankly, I don't care, because I have an opinion, and I'm allowed to have it, and so are you. And so is everyone else.
Exactly. Well, you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed, like, I fully support anyone going to a forum and saying, I did not like this about the game, and this is why.
Bam.
Even doing the total troll, this ending fucking sucked, blah, 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 right? I don't even care about that. But to go to the point where... To go to the point where you're sending BioWare cupcakes, mocking them, and saying...
that actually was really, really, really clever. I'm sorry.
Clever.
Like, I hated that, though, because, like, it's... Like, some guy spent $1,000 on that, man. You know, I could totally use that for school tuition right now.
Like, to go to the process of raising money to saying, hey, here's some money, write a new ending, and release new content.
Okay, do not get me started on that Child's Play thing. That Child's Play thing was disgusting. I find that, like, I'm glad that Child's Play is getting all of this money, like the charity that they raise the money for, but the guy from Penny Arcade, he put it perfectly, because Penny Arcade is the company, or is the site that started this charity. He said Child's Play has to be the cause. Like, you're supposed to be giving money to Child's Play for Child's Play. People were giving money to Child's Play for a different ending. So Child's Play was not the cause.
Yeah.
And also, when BioWare came out and said something like, yeah, we're gonna like provide some closure to you guys, people wanted their money back. You gave money to a freaking charity, and you're asking for your money back. that is,
yeah.
I don't like swearing on the internet right now, but that is fucking disgusting. Like,
well, I think that just goes to show the level of intelligence of people on the internet.
I know, and you know what? Like, they're giving gamers a bad name, and frankly, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't like it, because gaming actually, like, I consider gaming an actual art form, and like better than movies and better than TV shows. But you know what? You have all these like 10-year-old and like 12-year-old kids who just have the intelligence level of Jar Jar Binks. It's ridiculous.
I think that's where entitlement starts, kind of, just when you're actively pursuing to change the ending of the game, to say, I deserve the ending.
Well, I'm sorry, just to be sure, for the Child's Play charity, I'm glad they're getting all this money. I just think they got it in like a really, really, really bad way. In
Yes.
fact, perfect example was this, is Jim Sterling wrote a story about this on Destructoid, is people can claim like that they're doing this for the good of Child's Play. No, they were doing this to deflect the negative publicity they were getting. Because Jim Sterling got emails from the guys who started this charity drive saying, publish a story telling us that we're doing this. Basically asking him to give them good PR. And what did Jim Sterling do? He just completely turned it against them, and it was so funny reading it. But yeah, I'm glad Child's Play getting the money. The charity deserves money and all that. If I could donate the money right now, I totally would. But you should not, the charity should be the cause. Child's Play should be the cause for what you're doing. You should be donating money to the cause that Child's Play represents. You shouldn't be donating money for a cause like getting an ending to a game changed. I'm sorry, I just find that to be totally disgusting.
Yeah.
And especially when you ask for that money back when you get what you want. That, come on, give me a break.
Okay, so let's
Sorry,
just...
I got really pissed off.
No, that's perfectly fine. But let's say, where does BioWare go from here? Should they give in to fan...
they don't have a choice. They have to do something.
What I was going to say is, should they give into this and either make a new game, and we'll get into why I think that's plausible, but we'll leave that for after these next two. Should they either release game-ending or game-altering DLC kind of in the way that Bethesda did with Fallout 3, and kind of make it so that...
I never finished Fallout 3, so I didn't know about that.
Well, basically, for those of you who haven't played it, the Broken Steel, the way Fallout 3 ended was just... Fallout 3 spoilers? If you had to die at the end, the courier died, or not the courier was New Vegas. The lone wanderer died, right? So Broken Steel, and you had to go back to before that last mission if you wanted to play again, right? So I know a lot of games do that, but I really don't kind of agree with that.
Hey Lee, what's that what's that going on in the background there?
That is a train, but
okay. You bitched at me for hockey playing in the background.
I can't control that, but
I know based on where you live, so.
So now I'm off place here. So the Broken Steel made it so that you woke up afterwards and they were like, oh, we fixed you, blah, 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 right? And so then that was the way they kind of extended the ending and gave you another level cap kind of thing, right? They raised the level cap. So.
That's fine. That's fine.
Do you think it's possible, and also that, so when Mass Effect 3 ends, you go back to before you went to the use of man's base, right?
What they should do for the ending of Mass Effect 3, if they do release DLC for the ending, and frankly, they've gone too far, they have to now. Dr. Ray Muzica came out and made that statement. He said they're making something to fix all this stuff, so they have no choice but to do it. Here's what they should do. They should, if you chose the Destroy ending and you got the ending where Shepard woke up, they should have Shepard waking up, you get into Normandy, and you have a one-on-one battle with Harbinger. Because I want to see more of Harbinger. Because that Reaper was badass, man.
I get that, but that
also seems a little bit too cliche as well.
Now we're leading into video game endings in general, and also sci-fi endings, which I'm going to say something in support of that ending for sci-fi, but for video games in general, video games grew up with you needed to have the final boss. The game ended when you beat the boss, right? And now games are in general are kind of just throwing that out the window, right? Which I kind of agree with. You don't really need
some games should have it though. I think RPGs should have a final boss. That's what I believe.
Yeah, well, there should always, I guess that's the best way to resolve the conflict, is to do something to get rid of the ending, right? Whether that be putting them in jail or killing them or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't necessarily think that battle needs to be at the end kind of thing, right? There doesn't need to be as epic as it has been or as drawn in the sand as it has been in the past. So I kind of agree with it in that aspect, that you didn't really have a boss battle per se. So.
And in all fairness, that final battle, in air quotes, where you have to wait for the destroyer to come up, and you're fighting so many brutes, and you're fighting like 3 banshees, and you're fighting all these
That was
marauders.
brutal.
That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
I didn't even play on Insanity, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
I was playing on hardcore. I think it was the second highest difficulty, and I don't even want to know what that's going to be like on Insanity.
I was like, up until that point, I was like, you know what, I could probably play this on Insanity, and it wouldn't be that difficult. And then I got to that, and I was like, I'm going to pull my hair out. What little hair I have on my head, I'm going to pull it out.
When we played on Insanity, I'm bringing my Xbox over, and we're playing that mission together, and we're filming that so we can just see the fail that's going to happen. It's going to be horrible. Like, I'm going to break my TV. I'm going to grab my controller and just chuck it at the TV in pure frustration. Because those Banshees are a pain in the ass. Because, like, I think on Insanity, they're also a lot faster, and when those things get close to you, they grab you and stab you, and it's instant death. And oh my god, like, one Banshee is harder than the final boss of Final Fantasy VIII. And that's saying something. Because that boss took me like at least 3 hours.
Where was I? Oh, I was also going to say, the ending of, like, in sci-fi, as kind of a rule, sci-fi is always a cheesy cliche ending, right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So if you did go the route of, oh, the world's saved, everyone's happy, let's go party on the Normandy, right? That's
one thing I liked about what BioWare did. They kind of, like, you did not expect this. That's what I like. This is something you did not expect in the slightest. It was not a cliche ending.
Yes, and I respect that.
But they handled it horribly. I'm going to continuously say that. They handled it horribly.
Yes, the plot holes are undeniable.
What I would have preferred is Casey Hudson just go on record and just explain the plot holes. That's all I wanted. I just want him to explain that. That's all I wanted.
If he did that, I'd be perfectly fine. Like, at this point, I'm not even, like, the initial standpoint before the game was even released was, there will be no game-ending DLC. There will be no after-the-fact DLC. All of it will be during the battle. That's what they said, right? This
is the end of a trilogy, and you should not go beyond it.
Which I agree with, alright? But now I'm saying, even with the fan reaction to it, stick to your guns, alright?
Yeah, like, what's done is done. Leave it as it is.
As crappy as it is, leave it.
Yeah.
Right? Hold your head high and limp out of there with pride, okay?
Well, I was just about to use the Toronto Maple Leafs as a reference, but I can't anymore, because you just said pride.
Mark's not here, so...
I don't. But yeah, like, think of it like the Toronto Maple Leafs' last 10 seasons. Like, it sucked, it's horrible, but deal with it. Just deal with it, because there's nothing you can do. The only people who can deal with it are the Toronto Maple Leafs, or in our case, BioWare. They're the only ones who can deal with it. They should not have to change their ending, because, like, I already experienced that ending. I'm not going to like having to play a new ending saying, oh, the one that I worked 30 hours to get to is null.
And that's another thing. So if they release another, like, ending-altering DLC, then what was the thing I just played? Was it didn't matter?
If it was the indoctrination
thing,
I would understand. If it was the indoctrination thing, I understand that.
Yes.
But I honestly think if they go the route of indoctrination, they're caving into the fans to the point where they might as well just employ the fans as writers.
I think they should release ending-altering DLC, but it should be like the end of Wayne's World, where they were like, oh, well, that's kind of a crappy ending. Let's go to the real one.
Okay, I think I should just go on record. This is the best podcast we've ever done.
Oh, well, don't get too cocky. We still got some more to go here. But
I know. Sorry, Will. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Dave.
Where was I going to go with after that? What was I saying was going to be after the fact?
I don't know. I'm sorry, but my laptop is boiling hot, and I'm sweating at least 10 pounds off my body right now.
I think we pretty much covered everything. Got everything we needed to say. So, in conclusion, we both don't agree with the ending.
Hold on. Let's state our own thoughts on the ending.
Okay.
Right now.
You first.
No,
you first.
No, you first.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with... I think the ending is bad, but that's just because of the plot holes. I did not like the ending, and even before I saw the reaction, I was literally sitting there going like, what the hell is this? What did I just watch, right? And then, I remember what I was going to talk about. But, so,
We will add some podcast ending DLC so we can hear it later.
Yeah, podcast. You have to pay $10 to get that stuff. But
oh god, pre-order this at GameStop.
You get free guns. But so I agree with the fact that the ending is bad. Do I think that they should necessarily fix it and release game-ending or game-altering DLC? No. But that being said, do I think the indoctrination theory is a better ending than what they've given us? Yes. I do think that the fan-made indoctrination theory is a better ending than BioWare wrote.
Oh, God, yes. Alright, so...
But also, do I think that that was what BioWare was going for? Absolutely not. And do I think that they will implement that into the game? No. Not in a million years.
Because they will never they will never admit that the fans are better writers than them. Okay, so my thoughts, I 100% agree with everything Lee just said. Because the ending was shit. The ending was terrible. It was rushed. It was so obvious it was rushed. And the plot holes were just the plot holes were what ruined it for me. And, the overall concept of the ending, like I've said at least 10 times in this podcast, is actually logical. You destroy the Reapers, mass relays get destroyed. Blah, 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 blah. However, they should not release DLC for this game. They should not, they should release DLC for the game, but they should not release game-ending DLC, because that would just ruin everything they built for this game. And if they release it and they charge people for it, how is that going to make them look? It's just going to make it look a lot worse.
Yeah. And
that's another thing. If they charge people for that DLC, I'm just going to be like, you obviously planned this all along, and you're trying to rip us off now. Because you're charging us for the end of the game. And I know a company that did this. Square Enix did this with Final Fantasy 13 too. From what I remember, I haven't finished the game yet, but apparently that game, the ending was horrible, and Square Enix released an ending and had people pay for it. But all I want is for Casey Hudson to just come out of his room, stop counting his millions of dollars that he's made on this game, and just tell everyone what the plot holes are. That's all I want. That's all I want. It's just to explain why Joker was leaving, why your squad was there, why Anderson got there before you when he's an old 70-year-old man and you should be able to run and he shouldn't be able to walk faster than you.
Who was mortally wounded.
Yeah, come on, oh my god, this ending is just blowing my mind right now. And as for the indoctrination theory, it makes more sense than anything BioWare came up with for that ending, but they should not use that as the ending, because that is just a get-out-of-jail-free card. And that'll just set a horrible precedent where you're going to let your fans dictate the game you want to make.
Yeah.
That is just going to set a horrible precedent. Wow, I explained that horribly. I'm sorry. I'm really tired.
That's fine. I was also going to say that it sets a precedent in the gaming industry to think that if you complain enough or are vocal enough about the ending, you can change it. And I think that's a slippery slope to go down. So I could be like, oh, I didn't like the ending of the Twilight book. I want it changed, blah, 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 blah. I didn't like the ending of, I'm trying to think of a series of movies that's not based on a book. But
don't say Star Wars. George Lucas has changed it already.
Yeah, that's true. But, I didn't like the ending of this, blah, 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 so I'm going to change it, right? I think that it's could be a bad thing to get into.
I don't see a way where, this could either go really nicely, where BioWare gets a lot of the credibility back, or this could just go horribly. Because this is just going to set a dangerous precedent. Because, what if, a developer releases a game and they don't like the ending, and people ask them to change it, they refuse, but then they're going to go, oh, but BioWare did it.
Yeah, that too.
And one more thing. Gamers of the world, grow up. Please. Just grow up.
It is a video game at the end of the day.
Yes, it is a video game. It's meant for entertainment. I know you guys love it. Frankly, I love it too. I share your sentiments towards the crappy ending. I share it. But there's two things. There's constructive criticism and destructive criticism. Go in there, tell them you didn't like their ending, tell them what you didn't like about it, give them options on what they can do better in the future. Do not harass them on Twitter.
And demand that because you think this, they should change it, or take action to do something about it.
And I'm sorry, Internet, I know you hate him right now, but Colin Moriarty was right in that. That is gamer entitlement, where you just automatically think you can demand them to change it. No, you have no right. I know you paid your money for that, but there are worse things in life than the ending to Mass Effect 3.
Yes.
You could die tomorrow. You could get cancer. Like, a pet could die. All this stuff could happen. Like,
on that
sorry,
optimistic note, I was also going to say earlier.
How can I, I have to be pessimistic like that.
We should probably wrap this up soon, but I want to make one more point. At the very end, where it shows, I'm assuming it was a push ahead into way into the future, where it showed an old man and presuming his.
I actually like that. I actually like that.
Oh yeah, that was good.
The more I think about that, the more I think about that part, it actually made sense because it makes you think that it adds. Oh, how can I explain this? Mass Effect 1 had this mystery to it, this magic and all that crap. Mass Effect 2 and 3 was more action, but that's fine. I think what happened with the end there when that grandfather and that kid were talking, that actually that brought some of that mystery back.
Yeah, but what I was going to say.
That was Buzz Aldrin, everyone. That was Buzz Aldrin.
Was it?
The old man. Yeah, that was Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
I was also going to say, there was one line of dialogue that got me thinking about where the series could be headed. And this is actually in the game, but of course it's not.
It's not game-ending DLC.
He says, he's telling the story of the Shepherd, which is obviously about Shepherd.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Oh, can you tell me another story, right?" And then the grandfather says, "Oh, just one more." And I think that was kind of just, that was either a very weird way of saying, "Oh yeah, his legacy lives on," or there will be a fourth game, maybe in the Mass Effect universe, but not necessarily part of this trilogy. Kind of the way that Halo is a trilogy, but now it's not, right?
Yeah, because you got Halo Wars, you got Halo ODST.
Well, they said it was a trilogy. No. Well, now there's Halo 4, which.
Oh God!
It's like a different thing. So it's like they could be doing something about that it's not necessarily Shepard, but it is something else in the Mass Effect universe, kind of tying up this whole story, right? So I think that could be something about it.
In the end, remember, people, it's just a game, and do not let the ending take away from what you experienced from the beginning 30-plus hours of that game, and including the entire first two games in general. Do not let one ending take away the fun you had from those three games. That is, if you say you hate the series because of that ending, you are throwing away 100-plus hours of fun that I know you had. Because if you were playing that third game, you enjoyed the first two games. Do not let the ending take away what you enjoyed.
I agree. So, thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you, Danny.
There's your optimistic note right there.
We will try to keep committed to more regular uploads. I know we've said this in the past, but
in all fairness, we are all in school, but school's almost over, so.
Yes.
There you go.
And it's also hard to get everybody together. Mark is a living enigma. That
so he's a mystery in itself.
It's hard to wrangle. So
Dave has a lot of work to do. He does a lot of film stuff for his college.
Yes.
And also, I'd like to bring this up now. I'm creating a Twitter account for NERDcast, and I'm going to be giving everyone the password. Not all you viewers. I'm going to be giving everyone here a password. So, and please follow us on Twitter and give us constructive criticism on our show.
I will be putting the link in the description for what that Twitter is, because we don't know what it is, because we haven't made it yet, so we don't know what's available.
Danny's starting. I'm talking to the third person now. I'm starting to create it right now. Actually, right when I'm done here, I'm going to do that. But thank you all for listening. I don't know how many of you are out there, considering we're relatively young. You can find us on YouTube. You can find Lee's own channel. Lee, what's your channel?
Manly92.
And you can find Will and Mark at Eagle Thrust Top Gun. I just love that name. And you can find Dave at Sir Duxalot. Is it still Sir Duxalot?
He has many channels, but all the appropriate links will be in the description or somewhere.
And sooner or later, you're going to be able to find us on iTunes. I think we discussed this a while ago.
I'm going to seriously look into it. I think I have a site in mind, but I don't know that will
Or
come out, so.
geekbox.net. You can probably find us there. We're going to try to get there as well.
There are a lot of podcast hosting sites.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough rambling for tonight. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Enjoy this 10-minute ending.